Content warning. This podcast contains bones, blood, smut, and swear words. I had to open up the right file.
Before we get into Judith's huge crush on the Crown Princess of Ida, I wanted to plug two quick things. The show is so much fun to make that we started making random extra episodes. And if you want access to them, you can go to patreon.com/frontlinefifth. For $1 or $2 a week, you get things like movie reviews, extra games, John and Brooke's murder boards. It's a riot. Also, if you haven't yet, I cannot encourage you enough to check out our merch store. Redbubble lets you get designs on almost everything from stickers to hats to shower curtains. And our merch witch has created some delicious designs. So if you want, Brooke's epic quote that says, "Death to incompetent fools, but on a clock," you can get that. So go to redbubble.com, type Frontline Fifth into the search bar, and alternatively, you can just follow the link in the show notes. Okay, back to the bone zone.
This episode is safe for anyone who has read Gideon the Ninth, Harrow the Ninth, and As Yet Unsent.
Act 1. Welcome, penitents. Hello and welcome to the Frontline Fifth, a Locktoon podcast where two brand spankin' new novitiates explore the Locktoon series for the first time, while a couple of dried-out bone witches cackle over how little they really know. Ghosts and river bubbles are super passé, so this week we're sticking to the cold, hard facts. Collected in the cohort intelligence files collected by Captain Judith Deuteros in Tamsin Muir's short story, As Yet Unsent. My name is Marie, and I'm our guide and chief hostage taker on this expedition. But I wouldn't be able to do it without my partner in crime, Hannah. Hannah, how susceptible would you be to radicalization by Blood of Eden?
I think I would be immediately radicalized. I think it would take almost nothing for them to be like, they keep on kicking people out of their homes on planets, and I'd be like, I'm all in. Let's fucking fight these bitches.
Yeah, you're Corona Beth.
Thank you.
I mean, you've got the height and the hair, so... Okay, Hannah and I have already spent some time analyzing Judith's dream journal with guest stars Josh and Sonia. That honestly just made us miss our little newbies all the more, which is why this time we've kidnapped John and Brooke as well. So John, Brooke, how susceptible would you be to BOE radicalization? Are you a Corona, a Camilla, or a Judith?
I think it's weird to ask that question about, would you be radicalized by the less religious, obviously religious culty faction?
I would miss my bones.
Are you a would you be radicalized by a religious cult or a political cult?
What a question.
That's a good way to put it. I like that a lot.
Probably political. I think I'd fight for a general cause before a person or a single individual.
Yeah, I'm putting myself somewhere between, I think, Cam and Corona.
Yeah. I'm probably Camilla. I'm also hyper skeptical and want all the evidence.
I will point out that saying that the religious cult is like fighting for a single person, that a huge part of BOE was following the ideologue of Wake.
Or before that, what did they talk about? They talk about the 6,000 years ago, the one, okay, I read this once, so I'm sorry, you're going to get like what it's like when John and I only like read something once and then come on. No, sorry, just me. I'm sure John read this multiple times. Did you?
No, but I mean, it is fair to say that I think like for some period of time, BOE was a cult of personality with everyone obsessed with Commander Wake and her charisma.
But that was only the past
real.
Couple decades.
It's true. Yeah. I don't think it started that way.
And now we're like with her passed on, but it's still, there's pros and cons. I respect so much Camilla's ability and Brooke's ability to be skeptical about this shit. And I'm dead serious. I would not be. I would be useless. You could tell me any lie. And as long as I felt like people were being hurt, I would be outraged. Outraged.
Yep. Sourcegram. Is that the thing that I'm trying to think of? Yeah. The crucial element was something they call sourcegram.
Okay. We'll get there. We're jumping ahead. Well, anyway, before we really get started, Hannah, can you orient us? What is As Yet Unsent?
Marie, I would be happy to orient us using the thing that you wrote last time that I thought was really fucking funny. So, this is God-forsaken Judith Deuteros' secret diary as she's rotting from the inside out in BOE captivity. Much like the cohort intelligence files, she thinks she's being very clinical and impartial and detached, and actually, she's giving a lot away about the internal psyche of Judith fucking Deuteros.
I'm glad you enjoyed that. So, before we get into all of the arguments, do you have any big picture takeaways from this short piece?
Judith is a Nepo baby.
Yeah, it explains so much.
Her father's an admiral, right? Is that what I remember? Yeah.
Yeah,
He's literally the leader of the fleet.
Oh my god, that does explain so much. That was it.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Just tough.
My reaction is that God and by extension the Ninth Houses are basically just a colonial power from the sounds of things.
Yep.
Not that we already didn't have flavors of that, but like this is 100% confirmation.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I'm going to have a strong response to Marie's answer here in a moment.
Well, Marie, you better go then.
I was just going to say, FYI, there are Jodie Beth shippers in the fandom, and I do not get it.
Jodie Beth.
Oh, God.
This is like more broadly a thing I've been thinking about. I ship pairs of people in TV shows all the time. And at the same time, I don't understand the need for like everything to be a romantic relationship. Like just occasionally we can be like, you guys just knew each other from childhood and it feels comfortable.
So you're not a Jodie Beth
Don't
shipper.
think their relationship would be, I don't think their relationship would be interesting to watch, which is not a helpful thing. Would it happen? Very different question.
I think they're so weird. I don't get it. I don't like them.
My hill that I'm going to die on is I think all shipping is super weird. And I just like, I have no time and no respect for any of this like shipping in any in any fandom. Not only is it not real, but like also just like have a certain level of respect for like the storytelling and narrative that they're trying to put out there, and like stop like if you don't like it, write your own fan fiction, but like don't just like throw it out there.
I mean, there is textual evidence.
Hot take, John, and I appreciate your hot takes. I do. This is my only thing I was going to say about As Yet Unsent. I think I said last time we recorded about it, which is that I fucking love the way Tamsin will tell a story and there are real things going on, but most of what you learn are these like little side notes, odd little throwaway lines. And for me, I learned so much about who Judith is, so much about who Corona is, and so much about how the world is happening right now in the background, not in the important parts that Judith thinks are important, but in the little background notes that she has.
Just for fun. So the way our house is set up now, there's like a cutout so like my wife can stick her head out from another room, and she just stuck her head around the corner and just goes, "That's an insane take," to what I just said. And also like that is such a heteronormative take, which yes, I fully acknowledge. This is the perspective of a straight white guy.
Contributing the diverse point here.
That was awesome.
She's
Podcast
right.
full of women.
So, I mean, with that, let's drag the corpse out into the woods to rot as we dissect the intelligence collected by the captive necromancer Judith Deuteros in our Interstitial episode, As Yet Still Unsent. Act 2, Hostage Doctrine Phase 3. Before we jump into it, I'd like to note that there is a lot of fodder for speculation here, so I think we should go wild speculating as we talk, and we can also make more coherent speculations later if we'd like. So, Entry 1. The report starts 5 months into Captain Judith Deuteros' captivity by Blood of Eden. She's still more or less incapacitated by the gut wound teacher gave her back at Canaan House. BOE has done some surgeries with Judith assisting via necromancy, but a lot of gut function has been outsourced to machines and bags outside her body.
I think the interesting thing just to start off with here is that they get kidnapped so much by BOE that there's like an entire SOP of like how to like act as a hostage. Like they have like a whole. Yeah, I read it as like,
well,
hey, here's like
6,000 years, I guess.
Yeah, but apparently they get kidnapped enough that like they need a plan for it the entire time. I guess everyone probably has that plan, but like it's.
But this plan insinuates that there's going to be a hostage return.
Also,
I
she
don't know.
has an implant to make recordings.
That is super interesting to me, that she actually has, like, this is not just her thinking stuff to herself. She's literally recording this in a way where it's not supposed to be findable by BOE, so that if the cohort recovers her body, her dead-ass body, they will still be able to recover these files. The other thing that I think is like really interesting here is this is like the first intimation. We get a bunch of intimations here, but whether or not they get kidnapped periodically, clearly BOE doesn't really understand what necromancers are. And this is interestingly kind of, it goes along with what we read at the end of Harrow the Ninth when we were reading Blood of Eden's like battle plans and tactical strategies. Their whole deal is like, you kill the necromancer with a headshot immediately because they're too scary. And here they have Judith, but they're doing weird things like not allowing her to have both her hands, like as though she needs her hands to do necromancy, which she doesn't. Like weird little shit like that. So I don't think they totally understand what's going on.
Yeah, there's clearly some gaps in their information. Because, like, I was just sitting here going, it's like, well, if you want her to heal herself, but, like, there's not a lot of death energy, just, like, go put her in a hospital for, like, a week and let her just, like, absorb, like, the, thanergy from everyone. Or, like, like, they clearly don't understand how necromancy works. Because, like, the whole issue, her necromancy sucks right now because they're on, like, a living planet with not a lot of death. Just go stick her in a place where tons of people die and she'll heal up eventually. Instead, they've got, like, what sounds like a bunch of machines and stuff.
Part of what was going on was, like, they eventually land on a planet so that she can do some necromancy on the planet. Because obviously this is the first time that they're on a planet. They've been traveling in a spaceship because they all got picked up. This is what happened at the end, right? And this is what we speculated from Harrow, right? Because we saw them in Harrow. They got picked up. So they got picked up. They've been traveling. This is they land finally on a planet.
Wording is interesting. So the first surgery is done on what is called an abandoned steel planet, according to BOE, but Judith knows these as shepherd planets. And this just like was so obviously like contrary propaganda in both directions, trying to talk about whether someone is trying to, take something away or trying to protect it and protect you.
And clearly this is referring to one where like the thalergy has been switched to thanergy,
Flipped.
right?
I'm with you 100%. I think it's a planet that's been flipped, and you don't know if people are still there because like it takes a while for everybody to die, or whether people have been shepherded off. Totally unclear. Most of this whole report is actually written on a different planet that seems to pretty clearly be a thalergenic planet with like a jungle. It's got birds and, like plant life and stuff. It's very much at odds with the world that we have encountered up till now.
It's written very much like a parallel to colonialism, where it's like it's a planet with like lots of life and a jungle and blah, 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 versus like the sterile, civilized ninth houses. Blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
Propaganda, propaganda, propaganda.
The other interesting thing in this entry is that Judith notes that the corpse has failed to rot.
Dun, dun, dun. That's crazy. That was like one of the most interesting things out of this.
I made very few highlights. That was one.
Yeah.
Did you know what it meant by the corpse immediately?
Yeah. I mean, we know the missing corpse is Gideon's, so...
Yeah.
Made sense.
So, entry 2, Camilla Hecht. So this is her thoughts on Camilla. Camilla has some degree of independence, not as much as the princess, but she also has an ankle monitor that delivers a severe electric shock if she does anything untoward. It's only been used once when the Edenites tried to take away her wizard bones and Cam fought back. Judith is concerned that Camilla is being radicalized by a BOE commander called We Suffer.
What's that from, do you think? No clues.
The thing that seems to have been critical in swinging Camilla's views is the sourcegram, which the Edenites claim was transmitted from the 9 houses 6,000 years ago. We Suffer and Camilla often reference a break clause that is presumably in this message. Judith thinks that this is likely propaganda, but Camilla says that BOE knows things that no one outside the 6th house could know, although the references are antique.
I love this. I oddly when I was thinking about this if Judith is right, if this is propaganda that's meant to sway Camilla, it's really strong. The idea of being able to say things that no one else could know. And if it were propaganda, how clever would it have been to make sure that it was antique references, that it's actually not up to, I think that actually makes it more authentic. But of course, that's because it makes it more reasonable that this really is a 6,000-year-old message that has insights that are real. I don't know. I think this is really, really interesting, and it intimates that connection between Blood of Eden and the 9 houses has been going on for literally, I believe, longer than the Emperor has known Blood of Eden existed. Because my memory is that he said that they encountered BOE about 5,000 years ago, but they had existed for much longer. But this means that someone in the 9 houses fucking knew and was coordinating in some manner. Although one message 6,000 years ago is not a lot to go on.
Although one message 6,000 years ago isn't going to include that many references to the 6th house. It would be the 6th house, wouldn't it? No, it doesn't have to be, right?
I was going to say,
they could have just
it depends on where it's from, right? Like, obviously, if it came from someone in the cohort, you would learn details about the cohort and Trentham. If it came from, it's hard to tell, but this does seem like it had to have been transmitted from the 6th house.
Yeah, I mean, reading the context on like the source gram and also just like all the parallels with colonialism, I'm going to assume the break clause or something was like, again, and also some of the other like contract things that are mentioned later in here as well. I'm assuming like the break clause is probably something that like lets planets get out from underneath the rule of the Emperor, and like when he dies or something, or like they can say, it's going to be like one of those things where it's like they're supposed to be freed and they're just never free because the Emperor is never going to die. It's just like something like that, right? Like it's just some probably bullshit contract. At least that's kind of how I read it. Is like, this just reminded me of my Pennsylvania education growing up in an area. Are you guys familiar with the Walking Treaty?
No.
So basically the entire eastern part of Pennsylvania was stolen from basically the indigenous people via a contract that William Penn's kids had with some of the native tribes, where they were supposed to be given as much land as they could walk across in a day and a half. And what the colonial, basically Penn's kids did, was they pre-cleared a trail and they hired 3 guys who were marathon runners basically to come in, and instead of walking, they sprinted along a cleared trail. And so instead of getting like basically a day and a half, they got land the size of Rhode Island in the contract, and then forged papers to like pretend a creek was a river. And so basically the entire eastern section of Pennsylvania, like basically all of eastern Pennsylvania, was stolen via like a shitty contract and colonials cheating on contracts. And this is just reminding me of that. So anyway, fun times.
Yeah. Lawyerly contract stuff. Interesting.
Yeah.
Like really interesting to like have like a break clause and like lawyerly. Yeah. Yeah. Especially like what we know about the 6th house from the study of Dr. Sex.
They're rules lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are. Nerds.
So Judith tells Camilla that radicalization was a fate worse than death, and asks Camilla.
My favorite hyperbole.
Asks Camilla why she's letting herself be swayed, and Camilla responds, the warden would want to find out. And we find out like a little later in this story that Cam was like nonverbal for the first 4 weeks of imprisonment.
Which speaks to Brooke's whole thing about like being cynical about this. Like, Camilla didn't go over immediately. She needed actual evidence. And I think she's still kind of on the fence. She's just like taking in the evidence that exists. And for a long time, she basically just sat and watched.
Yep.
I would also say it's probably also like she was grieving during this process too as well. I also read that. Like,
no doubt.
Yeah. Catatonic with grief.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a little piece here about how they play chess in their imaginations. And Camilla is really good. And the only one who gives her a good game is Corona.
That's a surprise.
I don't know if it is, or rather, I don't know if it ought to be, because it surprised me as well. But like, so on this reread, over the course of recording Frontline 5th, I have done a bunch of rereading and rethinking and have really come to like very different conclusions about many of these characters. And both Corona and Camilla, to me, read as people who were always
severely underestimated.
Yeah, exactly. This is like it was so interesting to me when we did the mysterious study of Dr. Sex, and like Camilla is coming up with a lot of really clever inferences. Like Camilla fucking has it. And more, I'm wondering if I underestimate Corona because she's hot, which I have a tendency to do, and I need to fucking get over it.
That's never happened before in society.
Corona, like, explicitly mentions that that's, like, a thing that she works to project and make people think about her, which
she
probably
uses
is not
it.
a hard thing. But yeah, but at the same time, she's never, her character traits have never necessarily pointed towards someone who is a careful strategist.
Yeah, it hasn't been that, but also, like, it's any time that we've seen her interacting, we see her interacting with Ianthe. Ianthe treats her like she's stupid.
That's also true.
Ianthe also treats lots of people like they're stupid, to be fair.
To be fair.
I'm not looking at how Ianthe treats her. I'm looking at how Corona acts. And a lot of the time she's throwing sort of like emotional tantrums.
Yeah, isn't something you associate with somebody who's smart.
Well, just good at chess.
That was another hill I was about to die on, which is like, just because you're good at chess does not make you intelligent. Like, you can just, oh my God, how many hate messages are we going to get on my, like, hating of shipping? And also, like, chess is not an indicator of intelligence.
Wow.
Entry 3, Corona Tridentarius. So Judith says that Corona has been fully radicalized. Judith has known her since she was a child and is ashamed she didn't know that Corona was only pretending to be a necromancer. Camilla thinks the twin necromancer's ploy was Ianthe's idea, and Judith thinks that Corona would never do anything she didn't choose to do or think up herself.
So this is like a good example, though, of like that in-between space where I agree, Brooke. I think I'm dead serious. I think until this reread for this show, I was fully on board with the idea that everything is like Ianthe's master plan that Corona goes along with. But the more I read little bits about her, and it shows up in little ways, and this is actually interesting to me because whether or not you are a Jodie Beth shipper, Judith has fucking known Corona since they were children, and they know a lot about each other, like more about each other than I think either one is willing to admit. And I think it's very interesting, the idea that Corona, I mean, as you said, maybe she's like doesn't actually have great emotional control, and as a result is not a person who is willing to be very careful about someone else's plan, which I could see that like she actually would have her own tactician, her own like idea about how to move forward, and would not actually be very reliable about following a plan that she didn't think up first. Just a thought. That's me.
Corona Beth is being won over by the Edenites' cause. They're upset by resettlements. So converting a thallergenic planet to a thanergenic one kills all the organic life on it over the course of centuries. All the humans have to be resettled. And Judith points out that these resettlements come with full economic support. So what's the problem? The Edenites also claim that service contracts with the Nine Houses were negotiated in previous generations with no possibility for end until the death of the Emperor. And Judith points out that he's the Emperor Undying. Duh!
Oh my God.
Well, actually,
this is such a good instance of John's like example there, where like just these explicit legalese clause that allow, you know, the colonialists to have these insane loopholes and then exploit them relentlessly. And I hate the whole like, oh, we're resettling you with full economic support. It's probably just as good as your
it.
It's so fucked up.
Even though Corona has been radicalized, Judith defends the princess. She knows that she lost a cavalier and a sister in what was essentially a horrific combat situation. Like, kind of like, oh, don't blame poor Corona for being radicalized. She's got PTSD, you know? She also blames this on BOE. Yet it was a situation completely brought about by Blood of Eden pawns if what Hecht says about the lictor impersonating Dulcinea Septimus is true.
Yeah, lictors make great pawns of normal people.
Right. I wanted to point out that there's two things here. Judith is basically saying, oh, like, don't blame Corona. Like, she's too easily manipulated. And Camilla points out that Corona's intervention is what kept them all alive.
Oh, in captivity.
Because Camilla was catatonic and Judith was dying. And Corona did all the talking to begin with.
One of them says that they think that maybe Corona Beth is putting on an act here, right? Like she's taking on a strategy here of that towards the larger goal of keeping the three of them alive.
Maybe, yeah.
Versus she's truly radicalized because she is like you, Hannah, right? Like she hears of suffering and she's immediately converted, right? Like those are the two options that Judith is posing here about what's going on with Coronabeth. And I don't remember if it was Cam or one of them. I don't remember which one of them said that.
Cam is the one saying, I don't know, man. Like she might believe it, but also she's keeping us alive.
So she's ascribing some sort of like strategy to Coronabeth's action here.
I just think that like Corona is, like so many of Tamsin's characters, actually a more complicated character than even she gives herself credit for. She could be someone who's really smart and tactical and also someone who is driven by emotions. We've seen lots of instances where like just the degree of hunger in her eyes to be something that she can never be shows up a lot. This even happens, there's like a weird moment where she tries to duel Gideon in Gideon the Ninth.
Yep.
I think she wants to be someone's cavalier and knows that she never will be. And that drives a lot of like her emotional responses. But I think she's got more of a brain than we give her credit for, because people who are good at chess are really smart, John.
So far we have somebody in the 6th house connecting with BOE early on.
6,000 years ago. Yeah.
The 7th house lictor apparently having communication with BOE. The 8th and 5th house having communication. The 2nd house having communication.
4 lictors who I would argue are not really part of the house powers anymore. I mean, obviously they're like
Fair.
They're lictors, but like they're not engaged in the day-to-day house activities because they can't like return to those planets supposedly.
No, I'm just pointing out that anybody involved near Jod.
Yeah, basically,
Yes.
if you get exposure to God, you're like, yeah, we need to kill this motherfucker.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I don't know that you would say that the lictors aren't like dealing with like the day to day. Like we don't actually have any.
They seem to be interacting with cohort.
Yeah, like I think that there is some thing where it's like we don't actually know.
That's true. So they would interact with the houses through like cohort interactions because the cohort collects people from all over the place. But like
They don't directly interact with their houses, apparently. It doesn't feel like that.
I don't get the sense they're even sitting down for like beers with the day-to-day soldiers on the Erebos or whatever. So I don't know how much they're really connecting outside of just like information collection.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out exactly how many different sources into BOE there were.
The Kithareya point is one that I wanted to talk about because it doesn't seem like she was part of Augustine and Mercy's plan with Commander Wake.
I agree.
In that, like, she's never brought into those conversations, and then she's doing something that feels entirely of her own accord. Why was she, like, hell-bent on killing everybody at Canaan House? That like, was not great for a hostage creation situation.
I really struggle with this, Brooke. I really, really struggle with Kithareya's motivations and what her plan actually was, because her plan seems largely to just be like vengeance for vengeance's sake. And then in order to lure the Emperor back towards the Nine Houses, there's intimation here that she did connect with BOE. It was a situation completely brought about by Blood of Eden pawns. I don't know if their goal was just to get the Emperor back in the system so BOE could target him. Was their goal always to collect a Judith equivalent in order to power a Stele? Judith is sort of the perfect necromancer for them because she's dying.
Yeah.
Like, because she is a mess. Whereas if they had a necromancer who was like a hardcore necromancer, they believe quite fervently that
that would be a danger to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they like took Judith as like a coincidental, like it was a good find, or if that was the goal.
Or like, because this is from Judith's perspective, maybe they're purposely keeping her like as like not healthy as they can, right? Like they're barely keeping her alive so that she's as weak as possible.
Yeah.
It might be that like the point was to destroy the heads of the houses, and they didn't care why Kithareya was on board to do that.
Yeah.
They just wanted to destroy the leadership of the houses. But
yeah.
The next entry, the corpse continues not to rot. Even scavenging animals will not touch it. Judith's body is still extremely broken. Sometimes she gets to be wheeled around outside. They are stationed on a Thalargy planet that has so much organic material that they use paper for writing on.
Everybody was like, they agree the texture is awful. I was like, compared to a plastic
Judith
sheet
refuses.
of some sort.
I know we
Nails
like
on a
hit like
chalkboard.
1,000 colonial motifs already, but like just the phrasing, it's like they have so many resources they're not exploiting properly. It's like
oh my God.
Corona and Judith routinely have an argument, which is the euphemism of this story. Corona keeps trying to engage with Judith, arguing with her and trying to make her understand BOE's position. Corona says that she's been tracking the economics and military tactics of the 9 houses, and they don't make sense. She's felt for a long time that the cohort movements didn't make sense to her. She said what would be most economically productive was intermingling with these people, allowing immigration and absorption into the 9 houses. That shepherd planets got more costly the further the houses extended themselves, and instead of creating long-lasting industry, we were doing little more than slash and burn trading. Scattershot, she said, notwithstanding the moral issue. She said she and her sister had always been interested in the way the houses were being run, and that Ianthe had encouraged her interest. She had always thought we were being wasteful. She says this is all more than theory. She had groomed herself for something, and all it had done was make her unfit for the purpose.
What was that allusion to?
I mean, I think that's a really good question that we absolutely should talk about. What do you think, Brooke?
I don't know. I couldn't quite figure that out, and I only read this once.
I think there's something really interesting here. So even as we've been characterizing Corona as the kind of person who would be radicalized along my lines just by being like, you know, pointlessly outraged, I think it's really interesting how clinical she is here, how she's thinking about this largely from like the economic and political standpoint rather than, she, you know, notwithstanding the moral issue.
I know what she's talking about. Mm-hmm.
It's not ideology, it's economics, said fucking
But
every venture capitalist that's ever lived. Like,
yes. But it's interesting that, like, I mean, I think it's a really interesting take that, like, Corona is sitting there being kind of irked by the way the houses are being run rather than necessarily being swayed by the outstanding, like, moral and human issue.
So she's basically saying then that, like, she trained herself to be, like, an intelligent and capable house leader, and instead what it made her do was realize the houses weren't run well, and there was nothing she could do about it except leave.
Augustine has the same thing where it's just like, it's seemingly like we're not doing this for a purpose, right? We're just doing this for like a crusade on Jod's behalf. And like, it doesn't make like economic sense or long-term sense for the fact that they're basically, they show up, they kill a planet, and then they like move on to the next planet and move the people, sure, but like the planet's dead. And so like eventually they're going to run out of planets, right? They're going to burn everything, which I don't know how we square that into our rampant speculation book. Like, is it like, I was told God lictored the solar system, but maybe he like, you know, when he lictored death, like every dead planet, just he gets stronger and stronger as they're like killing every planet.
Oh my God, he's
like a resurrection beast.
He is his own RV.
Or he's just like, every time there's a dead planet, like that's just more and more like dead energy in the universe for him to have. Because like, why, like, or are we just killing planets to deny them from getting eaten by other resurrection beasts? Like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we slashing and burning planets? Because it's like in agriculture, that's just like, you know, short-term profit for long-term pain.
But this is the thing, right? Like, this is why Ianthe and Corona are saying this doesn't make sense. This is why Augustine is like, I still don't get it.
Yeah. So,
like, everybody around him is going like, what is the purpose? I don't think any of us know.
And I think this perspective has to be more pervasive than we've learned. Because, like, Corona, Beth, and Ianthe were teenagers when they were figuring this out, right? Like, apparently the information, at least, is accessible to a princess. So we could potentially say that this was privileged information that's not familiar. But you could at least expect that every third house, in that case, and probably second house, like, leader is privileged to this information. And so you have to be, like, completely, you know, in concordance with the ideology or skeptical, basically, and not really have any power to ask questions and dictate an alternative, since it's God. So I think it's interesting that this 10,000 years of these issues arising, and it's still like somebody's managed to keep a lid on all of it, right? I mean, BOE exists, so maybe this will be something that we learn more about, that the lid's not kept on as much as we've been led to think. But
I mean, I think the point that there are all of these leaks and all of these traitors the lid isn't as tight as we think it is.
Not enough
That's
traitors.
both true,
Not enough traitors at all.
Yeah, actually,
True enough.
But I think that's partially that if you are in the 9 houses, like even if you're in the leadership of one of the 9 houses, like you have a lot of things to do day to day in terms of, you know, controlling and doing the policy for your house. And then additionally, probably inter-house relations. And I bet it's background. You're like, oh yeah, people go off to war occasionally. You know, there's a war happening.
But do I have enough snow leaks for the next year?
Exactly.
Practically medieval.
Yeah. It's pretty clear that most people aren't paying enough attention, even if there are some leaks into BOE.
In all of this conversation, Judith she points out the depth of hatred BOE has for the 9 houses. And Corona's like, yeah, that is a sticking point.
But she's also like, she takes it very seriously, though. She's like, don't talk to me about that right now. I need to figure it out. Like, we'll see who wins. Like, that this is actually the biggest thing that I think Corona thinks they have to actually overcome, is that you are talking about a situation of minimum 6,000 years, probably 10,000 years of accumulated hatred towards your colonizers. I mean, which fucking checks out.
That's the reason that was my guess for what the whole plot of Nona the Ninth is around that point.
Entry 5. So despite the fact that all 3 prisoners have lost a partner, their grief and their responses are very different. So in particular, Judith and Camilla do not see eye to eye on their lost halves. Judith thinks Camilla and Palamedes had a dangerously codependent relationship, inappropriate to a Cav necro pair. Corona is always trying to charm and flirt with Camilla. Camilla is not moved by these attempts. Judith asks if Corona wants to hit that, and Corona responds, 1/2 + 1/2 is only ever 1/2. Corona asks Judith if she wants to hit that, and Judith says they shouldn't be making connections BOE can exploit. Corona calls her cold-blooded, and they have an argument.
I love the 1/2 + 1/2 is only ever half.
Yeah, it took me a minute.
But it feels so apt. It feels completely correct. It's like, it doesn't matter if you reach out, if you're in the throes of grief, and you're only ever aching for something that isn't there. It just doesn't matter who else is filling it in. Yeah,
and it's also, I think, probably in a weird spot because Cam knows that
she knows Palamedes there.
Yeah, he's still
Cam hopes.
Well, no,
I don't know if this is before or after.
So
right.
I don't
weird.
know.
Yeah, that's true. She doesn't know. She has a sincere hope. At the end of this conversation, Corona tells Judith that Blood of Eden thinks necros are just constantly having orgies with harems of live and dead non-necros. And they agree that someone found some niche porn and extrapolated, which Corona thinks is hilarious and Judith does not.
There are multiple references to the 9 houses having a thriving porn industry.
And specifically necrophilia-based porn. Fucking, like, just, oh my God, I don't even know what to do.
That after the dirty magazines, like, I don't get the sense that the 9 houses have that many people in them. So for them to have that many, such a thriving...
Come on, Brooke, have you ever been on the internet?
Yeah, there's a lot of people out here on the internet.
Yeah, to paraphrase Dr. Cox from Scrubs, if they got rid of porn on the internet, there would only be one website left, and it would be Bring Back the Porn.
God, you and your Scrubs quotes. I love it. Didn't know I was ever missing in my life.
Entry 6. Blood of Eden has been keeping Judith alive because they need her. They take her onto a stolen cohort ship and they demand that she use the Steely for them. The moment I saw the Steely, I underwent the phantom reaction, which I hadn't had since I was very young. I shed phantom reactions when I was an auxiliary. Too many adepts took months to overcome aptitude dyspraxia in space, which the lieutenant always called arse over elbow, dropping cups or missing chairs or overcorrecting, the laziness of a body accustomed to necromantic backup. When I saw the Steely, I attempted to get out of the chair by drawing on any thanergy pooled around me, which had the effect that I tried to fall out of the chair. Judith will not use the Steely. She doesn't respond at all until Blood of Eden threatens to shoot Camilla. Then she tells them that she knows how it works but can't use it herself. One necromancer alone would never be enough. Judith hopes that she's the only necromancer they have. She reasonably points out that they would be better at safeguarding against necromancy if they understood it at all, which implies that she is the first necromancer they've actually taken alive. She doesn't know why they let her live. Judith decides she has to die. She asks, Why do they know all this? How are they getting their intel? How were they not noticed traveling to the heart of the 9 houses?
That's a good question.
That's an excellent question.
I feel like that last question is like actually the question that's important, because it's one thing to have traitors and it's another thing to have 0 loyalists notice as you go to the fucking first house and pick up a bunch of people and peace out again. And they had to have known to go to the first house and pick up a bunch of people. They had an in with Kithurea, so.
Yes. I mean, what's interesting is how little she's willing to ever kind of like, she has a hard time like really connecting some of like the ideas that they might be underestimating Blood of Eden in certain ways because of like the overall like her view of them as being primitive for not having necromancy and I don't know, living on thalerogenic planets. Like it's continuously preventing her from really collecting real information.
Both underestimating Blood of Eden and underestimating the possibility of how many traitors or dissidents there could possibly be.
Because she can't recognize that the arguments have merit. She refuses. Sorry,
Yeah.
It's not that she can't. She refuses to entertain them.
Yes.
Yeah. I also think, so like one, I think there's something interesting here about this like phantom reaction that, you know, when you're in space, there's no energy and it's hard because you actually use it all the time when you're a necromancer, which also tells you that something about this Steely is like fundamentally thanergetic, that she sees it and like her body responds to it in a big way. But I also wanted to call attention. I didn't include in this outline, but the number of times that she references the lieutenant or references Marta or like even at the same time as she's talking about how it's important that the Cav and the Necro have like this like distinct and clinical and professional relationship. Like Marta is in the background of everything she thinks. And it's really quite tragic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's going to come up in a bit.
Yep.
Entry 7. Judith asks Cam and Corona to kill her. Cam says no. Corona says she'll think about it.
Oh my god. What a sass bucket.
Entry 8. It's clear that BOE is not united. There are multiple wings, cells with specific jurisdiction. We Suffer is nominally in command. Judith tells Camilla about her relationship with Lieutenant Dias. Dias was always an object of near hero worship among the trainees. When Judith was a teenager, she partnered with Dias for a training exercise, and if anything, the hero worship got worse. She did like the thing where she said that a book that Marta read was her favorite book, and then she was like, oh shit, and she had to like reread the book.
I gotta go make this book my favorite book. Yeah, I love camping. That's the first human thing you've ever said.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny is like the first two things that we get in this entry is first we get observations about the leadership of Blood of Eden, and then we have a discussion of hero worship. And I think this goes back to what we were saying at the beginning is like, we're seeing what's happening to Blood of Eden in the sort of years following Commander Wake's death. And I think that's what we're seeing is kind of the collapse of people who had been held together by, you know, some sort of like force of personality.
That's a great insight.
Now we have a looser structure that hasn't necessarily settled on who can determine the direction they go in.
Or maybe it was always a looser structure and then
Commander Wake had been a unifying force.
Yeah, you had a unifying force for the amount of time that she was alive and
now there's like
things.
There's a sense that there needs to be continuity of that, but it's hard to without that like kind of cultish leader.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like the ghost, of her is haunting that, but not really. It's haunting Harrow.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, like the historical thing of just like, you know, the charismatic leader dies and then like the next generation fight and destroy like what they've built up, trying to each carve out a piece of the pie. Like, you know, you got Genghis Khan and his kids, they get carved into 3 different Mongol empires, the Roman Empire after siege. Like, you know, there's just like when the charismatic leader dies, that was basically like
Alexander the Great
binding together all the factions, and then the factions aren't bound together anymore and all hell breaks loose.
Yep.
Yeah.
When Judith, as heir to the house, is looking for cavaliers, she suggests Marta Dias. Judith talks about Marta like a person in a way we've never seen from her so far. This is her talking about Marta. Everything she didn't do well, she threw herself against so that she could do it better or understand her weaknesses. She loved music. She was an excellent dancer. She never took a seat when we were enduring a 5th or 3rd ball. and she never let weakness master her.
The irony here is just that, like, I mean, she's describing the way Marta has so much vibrancy in life and has so much like excitement and love and willingness to like be, she never sits down during a ball because she loves to dance. She's having fun. And Judith never learns that from Marta. She respects it, which actually is very fucking cool. That Judith can see it.
She wants to look like it. Yeah.
Yeah, but she doesn't understand the idea of loving something and just letting yourself have it and letting yourself, be part of it.
Military kid, man.
I mean, it's putting it on a pedestal and not emulating it.
Yeah.
Hero worship rather than
like an aspirational, she doesn't think she could get to be a Marta.
I also think that like this is what happens when you have a role model and you decide that you're going to copy that. But it's not true to who you are, right? Like it doesn't, you don't have to love music and be a good dancer. You can have your own thing and still be a fully functioning human being. But if you're decided I'm going to like music and dancing, I'm going to do my best. That's what I'm going to do. And it's not your thing and you still do it. That's when you turn into the sort of human robot that Judith is.
Yeah, and I forget how young she is because she seems like she's fucking old. She's got 40-plus-year-old energy with love. And I say that as someone who has 80-plus-year-old energy.
But I think she seems so old because she had to be perfect to be good enough for Marta because she like worshipped Marta so much. And she thought Marta was perfect. So she had to be perfect. And so she never allowed herself to be what she could have been.
No, I'm with you 100%. And it's just that, like, for me, it actually is it reminds me a lot of me in high school. Like, I had a boyfriend who was older than me, and I was trying very hard to be cool and collected, and, like, I'd already done it all before, and, like, I was very mature for my age. I got told that a lot in high school, which in retrospect is, like, actually pretty disturbing from an older guy. This is one of those things where also you then I listened to all the music that he listened to.
Yeah. Right.
You know, like...
You adopt their version of cool.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Judith tells Camilla that when she was 17, she fell for Marta Dias and propositioned her, and Marta turned her down. It was the best and kindest, most honorable thing she could have done. She didn't have to tell me in so many words what we both knew, that the relationship between Cavalier and Necromancer could so easily curdle into codependency, a loss of self on both sides. An obsessive fusion of halves, not two complementary forces. Camilla tells Judith to come out and say it, and Judith tells Camilla to stop obsessing over Calamity's bones. Camilla is silent for a long time and then says, "At least when the warden acts like he knows everything, he generally does."
Burn.
Fucking love that so much.
And the thing that's so interesting about this is, like, Camilla and Calamity's relationship is so completely and totally different. And what Marta was doing for Judith was, you don't love me, you love the idea of me, and this is an unequal thing. Like, you are my boss's daughter and I am older than you. Like, we can't do this. Not, this is a Cav Necro thing, we can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a really interesting insight that, like, Judith sees it very much in the context of their professional roles and is actually downplaying and not thinking about all of the different power struggles and personality things going on in the background. The other thing that is, like, actually, I think fair, what you have here is, from the outside, a woman who is carrying around, like, and carefully putting chips of bone back together to create a glued piece of skull, and is carrying it with her to the point where she gets shocked and has to be hospitalized because she's not supposed to be doing this, but she refuses to give it up, right? Like, from the outside, you're like, whoa, you do need to learn how to grieve in a way that is safe and healthy. But that's because Judith does not know that there's a plan. Like, no one from the outside could look at Camilla and be like, oh, this is actually, like, with intention. This is not just you picking up every scrap of bone and hoping that it will mean something.
Yeah, no, it looks unhealthily obsessive and like a weird way to grieve and be like, girl, you
ghost
gotta let
resuscitation,
go.
But nobody knows she's resuscitating a ghost.
So it's, this shit is complicated, is all I'm saying.
Judith later says, I, who had a healthy relationship with my Cavalier, was obliged to help others who hadn't had my privileges.
Pot, meat, kettle.
She also starts this paragraph with, again, referring to her status as a Nepo baby, which was about, like, I had been blessed that every step of the way I had helped to get where I was. And I just feel like I need to give that to others. And it's like, you aren't helping anybody up. You asshole.
No, you're just telling everybody what to do and why they're doing it wrong because they didn't do it the way that you did it, rather than acknowledging that.
In a highly structured situation, yeah.
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 Anyway.
Judith
fucking Deuteros. Entry 9.
I pity her. I didn't pity her until I read this, you know?
Entry 9.
I still fucking hate her, but I do pity her. Go on.
Oh, she probably hates that even more. Sorry.
Entry 9.
Wait, entry 9?
What entry now?
Entry 9. Blood of Eden is debating whether to kill Judith. We suffer, wants to keep her alive. Everybody else wants her dead. Can't imagine why. Corona tells Judith she has to live to be Fleet Admiral. Judith says she is just an administrator, whereas Corona is a king. Corona says there is no king but the Emperor. Judith says her problem is a lack of job opportunities, and Corona says, too right.
What the fuck is that, Judith?
I fucking live for Brooke's face. It's the saddest thing for me. This is not a video medium. Brooke, tell me everything you think right now.
Judith says the problem is lack of job opportunities. What is that? Is she saying, like, oh man, too bad the Emperor is not dead? Like, what?
Yeah, too bad you can't be Emperor. You'd be great at it.
That's like
And Corona is like, yes, agreed.
Your manager is in their mid-30s and isn't going anywhere soon. Where can you go in your corporate ladder?
Thank you, John. Yes, it's exactly that. What the fuck? How come she's just suddenly thrown out heresy?
Well, I feel like she almost, in my mind, like Judith would say something like this as a joke or as just like, with no intention, just like, oh, it's too bad you don't have any opportunities. But when Corona says too right, for me, that ties back into her whole thing about she trained her whole life for a thing and it made her unfit for it. And I was like, is she like trying to fucking, like, how high are we going? Are we talking top of the third house or are we talking like top
Queen
of the
Corona,
houses?
Empress Corona. I don't know about it. But
Entry 10.
The kindly mistress, yeah.
Oh.
Count to 3, Marie.
Entry 9. Entry 9 where? Sorry.
Entry 10. Judith wants to die.
Don't we all?
No!
Not really. Entry 11. Corona asks Judith if she remembers the first season Judith came to visit the third house when they were 8 and 9 respectively. Corona says, you were so hard to play with, and that Judith would only unbend when she could be chivalrous when Corona pretended to be hurt. Corona tells Judith that every birthday they got to invite one person. Ianthe always invited whoever Babs was feuding with, and Corona always invited Judith.
I love that.
My
But
favorite
there you
insight.
were.
Hilarious.
So Ianthe. But there you were, wearing your uniform, freezing me out. Perfect Captain Deuteros. Perfectly boring Judith Deuteros. Mummy said you were just the most completely second house specimen ever to live. I went over to you when everyone else at the party would have eaten glass to talk to me. I had put a lot of effort into making them feel that way.
There it is.
There you were, and you weren't even grateful. You were immune. You wouldn't even tell me any good war stories when I'd been researching wars for days just because I knew you were coming.
I love this insight into both Corona and Ianthe.
Yeah.
Like, both that Ianthe is like just spite for the sake of spite, playing Eris just like for fun.
It's spite for the sake of spice, too, so I like that.
That's true. That's true. It works both ways. Thank you. It works actually, and spice for the sake of spite.
Yes.
But yeah, but I also love both that Corona wants someone who doesn't want her because she knows how easy it is for her to manipulate people. Like, she can manipulate anyone into wanting her, and therefore, like, it doesn't count. So the only people she can, like, interact with in a real way or, like, obsess over is trying to make someone want her that doesn't, maybe. Brooke looks like she disagrees.
I wonder if it's that. I hadn't thought about that. I like that option. My initial take on it was that Corona Beth viewed Judith as a challenge that she wanted to
It's that too, I think.
Yeah. I also think that there's something to be said about how Corona says these things here, because it's actually really casually cruel. She doesn't think to herself, perfectly boring Judith Deuteros. She says that shit out loud to Judith Deuteros.
Yeah. And Mummy is pretty harsh too.
Oh, yeah.
Although I don't know if Judith would take it that way, the perfect, completely second house specimen. Although specimen, whew, never a great way to talk about people.
Like, if somebody said to me, oh, yeah, it really seems like you were born in Idaho, I think I would be like, what do you mean by that?
Oh, I would be offended if you said I was the most perfectly Utah specimen.
But
yeah.
But I think Judith is very proud of her second
Confused,
house roots, so I'm not sure she would take that as an
That's
insult.
true.
Yeah,
100%
maybe.
sure.
Okay, so Corona takes care of Judith. Judith says to herself in her report that she understood Corona Beth better than she knew, just not entirely. She says, I think it is hell to entirely understand any other person.
All right, Jean-Paul Sartre.
That's what I said. Sorry, I'm so glad you also were there. L'enfer, c'est les autres.
Entry 12. Someone heals Judith while scolding the Edenites for being so incompetent. The someone is giving a whole bunch of, ugh, ew. The someone heals Judith while also weakening her immune system, so she'll still be vulnerable, and tells BOE that they need Judith to be able to keep up a sustained Thanergy field for the Steely. She says that the ship will move if they hook this thing, aka Judith, up to it. The someone has already given them coordinates and a specific route, as well as facilitating BOE's extraction mission, but that's all she's willing to do. Quote, you must follow the route I've given you afterward. You understand that if the Steely is discovered by God, that this is all over. I've tried to make it look like it wasn't my work, but that's not going to hold up on close inspection. I facilitated your extraction mission, and that is frankly as far as I'm willing to go. I said 20 years ago that I'd give you a Steely if you turned up the means to use one, and this is what I call cashing in abominably late. What do you think you're gonna do? March on the Mithraeum? Good luck. Not. Now show me this wretched body. And then the someone goes off to see the body that won't rot. So I think that this places us in time.
I wish you good luck not. Yeah.
I think it's so funny. They introduce that there was a new voice. It spoke perfectly accented, house pitched high, and this voice said, "Who gets a toy they've been desperate for and then breaks it immediately?" And I was like, "Oh, we got Mercy."
Yeah.
You're like bitchy high voice exclamation points. Here we go. I know exactly who this is.
The extraction mission has to. I thought the extraction mission was to go get the body from the tomb. No, like that's what we're extracting.
I'm torn. I also think it makes sense as extraction of Judith as a necromancer from the first house.
Me too.
At the end of Gideon the Ninth.
I think she meant extraction
Which
of the people.
says that it was more than one lictor at
yeah.
Canaan House interfacing with BOE in a weird way.
That was how I read it too. That doesn't necessarily,
The Steely, this has to be how they got to the Mithraeum. What do you think you're going to do? March on the Mithraeum?
Did Mercy fuel the Steely? Is that what's happening here? Because Judith couldn't fuel the Steely at this point.
So Judith told them that she couldn't, but she absolutely could.
But she hadn't.
No, she hadn't. This is okay. So here's my take on how this is happening. End of Gideon the Ninth, Blood of Eden comes down, potentially aided by Mercy, who is facilitating their extraction mission to extract Judith off of the planet, off of the first house. And then she gives them a Steely. Judith's like, well, I can't use it. And then later, Mercy hooks up with them again, makes fun of their surgery techniques, and then fixes Judith to some extent, and explains that Judith absolutely can use the Steely, had just refused to. But I think that puts us in a position where potentially this world, this jungle world with the birds, is the jungle world with the birds that Harrow hikes through and has to kill when she encounters
That's what I
Camilla
thought.
and Judith and Corona.
Although we don't see anybody else, so how do they? It's a little weird.
Yeah, but also like a planet is a big space, and they show up in a shuttle, so we also don't know how far they were from wherever their camp is.
That means that they would have had to travel by Steely a lot earlier.
They would have to travel by something, for sure.
Yeah. I didn't understand how they got there in the first place, if that's where they had ended up.
I think that they have other means of travel that aren't quite as fast as Steely.
Yeah, but doesn't matter. They couldn't have gotten there in that timeline, because that's what we heard at the very beginning of Harrow about the amount of time it would take to get near the Mithraeum. was going to be like, actually, wasn't it 5 years by Steely?
The planets aren't near the Mithraeum. I think they're getting there through the river.
You think Mercy and Harrow traveled there through the river? Because I think they said that it was going to take 5 years to get to the Mithraeum via Steely.
Okay, but that was the distance from Erebos to the Mithraeum, which is not necessarily the distance from this planet to the Mithraeum. And separately, I actually think, hadn't thought about it till now, but like Harrow doesn't know where she is in space. Yeah. They're supposed to be killing planets that are close by, but for all we know, Mercy took her literally all the way back basically to the 9 houses to kill this planet.
Yeah, that's kind of the only way that this makes sense, is that Harrow was mistaken on that. Which is possible. Yeah. Although I don't think they were supposed to be dropping into the river at that point either, since the resurrection beast was on its way. So that also is... Anyway, details.
Squishy. It's squishy.
Entry 13. Judith can walk now. The corpse of the 9th House Cavalier is still as perfect as when Cam convinced them to take her off Canaan House. Corona took her rapier. Corona asks Judith if she will accept Corona Beth as her new Cavalier. Judith, who has had the hots for Corona Beth for 12 years, says... Thank you for the offer, Your Highness, but not in this life or any other. BOE puts Judith in the control seat and the Steely is activated.
Meh.
Well, Blood of Eden is off on an adventure to somewhere. So we have to say goodbye to Judith, Camilla, and Coronabeth for a while. But don't worry, dear listener, we're not going anywhere just yet because it's time for a game. Interstitial, object of weird superstition. Well, since Hannah's last game for As Yet Unsent was frankly disgusting, we are doing something different this time.
Can we go back and listen to it?
Oh, actually, it probably isn't safe still.
It's got Nona content.
I'll just tell you what the game was, though, which is if you were a scientist trying to figure out why the body won't rot and what circumstances it would rot under, what experiments would be run on Gideon's body.
God, I'm so glad you didn't have us design experiments.
Instead, this week we are playing Construct a Name. So one of my favorite things about Blood of Eden are their tripartite names, a human connection going back 10,000 years. Commander Wake's name is a combo of Shakespeare, the New Zealand national anthem, and Eminem. So we're going to stick with the formula of serious poetry, national patriotic anthem, and a pop reference. So we're going to start with our own names, and then we can construct some fun ones to keep around in case anyone ever joins our rebellion and needs a name. What are your names? Let's start with you, Brooke.
I didn't realize that this had already been referenced in the chapters, but anyway. I am going with Hell is Other People, Genovia, the land I call my own. Really, really want to zig a zig ah.
Fantastic.
That's fantastic. And I appreciate you bringing Sart into it. Yeah. John?
What can we call you?
The Giving Tree, oh say can you see, I'm the Scat Man.
A+.
Full American.
Every single one is so good.
I was like, what are the chances John also pulls out the Princess Bride Genovia? Not Princess Bride, Princess Diaries. You made so many Princess Diary comments.
Okay. I'm really proud of this version of mine. I feel pretty, oh so pretty, and whenever I am lonely, I can find the cause of freedom and of right.
Ooh, I love that. One continuous thing. It works. I have Hunger in the Land, Yumi Yumi Yumi, skimming through rays of violet.
What's Yumi Yumi Yumi?
It's from the national anthem of Vanuatu, which was the country I always used to put myself as being from whenever they asked on the internet because I thought the name was really cool.
That's cool.
But it literally means we are.
Hell yeah.
Aww.
Hell yeah, that's great.
So, in order to construct some authentic BOE names, ancient words divorced from meaning, we've decided to incorporate an element of randomization. So, first, we have asked each of our hosts to bring in a smattering of poems, national anthems, and pop references. Then we will make random combinations. So,
big warning, I have read like maybe 3 poems in my entire life. I did not follow the literature track. The only thing really that I ever got exposed to literature in were my French courses. So most of my literature is French.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
It's even fun.
That's great. I also love that we have 2 from Shel Silverstein here. Come on.
Okay, so for We've put in entire poems here, so we're going to have to break it down further. So for the first name, Brooke is going to pick a line from the selected poem, John's going to pick a line from the anthem, and Hannah is going to pick a line from the selected pop reference, and then we're going to smush them together. So let's really quickly, how are we going to determine?
So I'm going to pull a line from from a Yeats poem, The Second Coming. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold.
So I've got the Latvian anthem, where Latvian sons sing. I'm not even going to try to say that in the original.
I want you to know that I can sing the Latvian national anthem.
Wait, what?
So I'm getting something from a quote from The House Bunny, which somehow I've never seen. These are very good. I think we'll go with the eyes are the nipples of the face.
Thank you. That's the best one. I don't know why that movie stuck with me so strongly. I don't have a memory for quotes except from The House Bunny.
Okay, so this whole name is, Marie, do you want to send it?
Our first option for you, dear listener, is Things Fall Apart, the center cannot hold. Where Latvian sons sing, the eyes are the nipple of the face.
Mwah.
John, you need to grab a line from Sonnet 29.
Okay.
Hannah, you need to grab a line from the Bhutan national anthem. And then I need to grab something from Zoolander. Our second name for you, dear listeners, are And trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, the protector who reigns over the realm of spiritual and secular traditions, a school for ants.
Iconic.
Amazing.
Oh, the pop reference really always takes it home.
It does really bring it back. I love that.
Okay, we need a poem from Hannah.
Futility.
Wilfred Owen.
Hannah is going to pull a line from Utility. Marie for an anthem.
Sudan.
So I will pull a song reference from Hosier's Movement.
Our third one is much more poetic for you. Move him into the sun with bitter struggle and solid determination, shake like the bough of a willow tree.
I love that one.
Wow, that person has got
I might have to
a lot to move into. That's great.
For this last one, I cheated and I already grabbed one.
Oh, you have the pop reference? Okay.
John, what pop reference did you do?
The tablet of Ian Nasir, the copper merchant.
What?
That's not a pop reference.
It's definitely a meme.
Okay, he's doing a meme.
Okay.
I have the Jordan national anthem.
The Georgian national
Georgian,
anthem?
not Jordan. Okay. Should I make you guys try and pronounce Georgian words written in Latin script?
Man, I was torn on this because I think I had the Bhutan national anthem, and I don't want to like mispronounce it. I don't know which is like more offensive to like. We can't win here. We can't win.
All right. So for our fourth name, Marie.
All mimsy were the Borogoves. Glory to freedom I myself gave on account of you 19 talents of copper to the palace.
I don't know what that is.
These are solid. I'm
do
actually like pretty
meme
pleased.
Review, John.
This one's from Mesopotamia. I'll send you the Wikipedia article.
Mesopotamian memes, amazing.
I think my favorite one is the one that has the eyes of the nipple of the face. Things
Yeah,
from
that
the
first
kind of
one
old,
is-
where Latvian sons sing, the eyes are the nipples of the face.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Now that we've been fully radicalized and we've got our names, I think it's time for some rampant speculation. So Act 3, wait and see who wins. There's so many little hints and teasers in this report, and it would be horribly bad manners not to let our newbies have an opportunity to share their conspiracy theories. So Brooke and John, what the fuck is happening?
First, I just gotta say I was really bummed that like Cam Powell and like maybe Dulcie were not actually double agents. I was super stoked for that. And I still maintain that it makes no sense that there aren't more traitors.
There's a lot of traitors.
No, there's just the fucking lictors who are 10,000 years old. And to me, that like is separate from the issue of there's thousands, if not millions of other people like living in these 9 houses that are just like la-di-da-di-da. Go farm my snow leeks, go to house parties, blah, 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 blah. Economics don't matter because I'm in a religious cult.
Economics don't matter because I'm in a religious cult? Can we put that on a sticker?
So I genuinely, after going through this with you all, I'm like, Corona, like, is just fully coming here to, like, a very simple thing, like
being converted to a cause full, like, wholesale.
I
right?
find it shocking that there's not more, and, like, especially, like, and I maintain, and I don't know exactly whether how much we could, like, somebody like Palamides as the warden, like, you could imagine would have encountered some of these same concepts, and, like, it's kind of surprising to me. No, except that the sixth house is literally the repository of records.
Well, that they can't get access to, right? Like, you have to fill out probably you have to fill out an information request, and it has to get approved, and it has to be rubber stamped 9 times.
An FOIA.
And then somebody has to get it out of storage. Yeah, it's just like...
I hear you. I still am a little confused about... I mean, fundamentally, he puts a lot of... He's supposed to be a really smart guy. Corona Beth has access to just, like, basic economics education, apparently, and, like, a little bit about, like, the state of things in the 9 houses, and it comes to these conclusions on her own. And, like, we could go ahead and, like, have an argument about whether that makes her, like, more politically aware and intelligent than Palamides, and that could be an argument. But, like, I'm just shocked that there aren't more traders, especially at these higher levels of power within each of the houses. Because you should have more access to information. People
just go with it. Like, you know, I mean, pick your historical example, but, like, most of the time people just go along with it.
Do they?
Yeah.
Also, we also got all these, like, little, like, half references to Palamides being talking about, like, dissatisfaction with the emperor, right? Like, there's something wrong with this process. I would never become a lictor. How he takes and takes and takes, being really upset that Harrow, like, to me, there's already been hints that he was, you know, getting some of this and maybe different angle from Corona Beth. But anyway, this seems to suggest that Cam was not, like, actually part of... Certainly they're not playing double agents. I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have, like, ideas that were already kind of aligned with BOE to some extent. But
my note in here was that converts are often the most radical.
Yep.
An important insight.
Corona Beth might go nuts, right? Like, not crazy, but, like, in terms of just, like, enthusiasm for overthrowing the emperor. But yeah, I mean, I think you have a note here, Brooke, about, like, the timeline and everything. It sounds like this was happening before they go see Harrow on the planet, right? Like, they have to use the Steely to get there, is what it sounds like. But, like, it's unclear.
Yeah, I guess we kind of mostly already touched on the timeline being a little bit squishy.
Yeah, I mean, because, like, they get close enough to the Mithraeum because, like, they meet Harrow on a planet that's, like, within the solar system that the Resurrection Beast is coming to get to the Mithraeum in. They're close enough.
Or the alternative being that we can't trust Harrow's interpretation of that being near the Mithraeum, and perhaps Mercy and her traveled far away through the river to get to that planet, and it wasn't actually close to the Mithraeum at all. So I don't think we can make a lot of conclusive statements about timeline and spatial locations. Yeah. Space-time continuum stuff. But actually, I want to go back to your point about Corona Beth maybe going off here. It really kind of opens up the door to some interesting Ianthe plot lines, because her loyalty has always seemed to rest with her sister, and if her sister disowns God,
and she just saved the emperor,
and so what are the motivations and what's going to happen?
Yeah, it seems like they're being set up to be on opposite sides.
Oh, wow. Well-written series where we're setting up an antagonistic relationship between two... Oh, my God. This is going to be great.
Well, the other version of this that I like, right, is if Ianthe and Corona Beth are always in cahoots and always have a plan, but they literally are now separated by space and time to the degree where they now have to operate with independent information. And there's something really interesting. I don't know if you've ever played Pinochle or any, like, equivalent game where you are silently trying to, like, hope your partner is also using the strategy that you are using.
Yeah, and what we're seeing right now is a complete opposite spectrum of end goals. So anyway, how those merge could be climactic. What else?
Oh, Gideon's body isn't rotting. Is it John's invincibility? Is it because her spirit's still on the mortal plane, like in Harrow's body? Like, we don't know anything about that yet.
Well, no, there's definitely something special about her flesh if animals won't touch it. So I think that rules out the idea that it's just
her spirit. Yeah,
her spirit like slightly attached to it. No, that feels like there's some immortal flesh situation.
Yeah,
which is weird for many reasons.
Suspicious.
Anyway, that's all I have.
Well, I guess we'll see if any of that happens when we start Nona the Ninth in 2026.
You torture me.
Yeah, this is so far away. God damn it.
Act 4. See you next time, my little nunlets. Well, that's it for today, but we'll be back with several more interstitial episodes coming out in the next few weeks, including an all-spoilers episode with reprising guest stars Sonia and Josh later this week. And then we will be taking a break between seasons before we let our poor little ravenous first-timers crack open Nona the Ninth in January 2026. If you want to follow along with us, our reading calendar is available on our website at frontlinefifth.podbean.com, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, which are linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And of course, if you didn't enjoy the podcast, feel free to lie. We have a Patreon, which you can join for access to bonus content every month. You can become a patron, and they are almost as sexy as Corona finds Gideon's corpse at patreon.com/frontlinefifth, and you can buy our killer merch at our Redbubble store. Finally, if you have any fun theories that you'd like to share with us, feel free to email us at frontlinefifth@gmail.com. With that, I'll just remind you not to unlock any tombs or enter any doors without permission because, ghosts. Bye!
Frontline Fifth is a Locked Tomb podcast conceived by Maria Adamako and starring Maria Adamako, Hannah Grunwald, Brooke Anderson, and John Ryan. Our cover art was designed and created by Maria Adamako, who also edited this episode. Our fabulous music was composed and recorded by Blake Anderson. Sonia Grunwald designs our killer merch. Hot! Gorgeous! The Locked Tomb series is a completely dope-ass book series by Tamsin Muir, who does not know we exist and is in no way affiliated with this podcast. Rad.